In the cradle of human civilization, along the sun-drenched coast of the Mediterranean, there existed a place so vast, so ambitious, that it became the symbol of knowledge itself, the Library of Alexandria. Founded in the 3rd century BCE in the Egyptian city of Alexandria, this library was more than a repository of scrolls. It was a monument to human curiosity, a daring assertion that all knowledge, from the secrets of the stars to the stories of forgotten peoples, could be collected, cataloged, and preserved. Its halls were said to be filled with hundreds of thousands of papyrus scrolls, each a testament to the ambition of a civilization that believed understanding could be captured and stored. Scholars traveled from the far corners of the known world to consult its collections, bringing manuscripts, mathematical treatises, philosophical discourses, medical texts, and literary works that would define generations. The library was founded under the reign of Ptolemy II Philadelphus, although some accounts suggest that his father, Ptolemy I Soter, laid the groundwork. The Ptolemaic rulers of Egypt, heirs of Alexander the Great's empire, sought to create a center where Greek culture and science could merge with Egyptian tradition, where scholars could engage and study free from the limitations of their homelands. This endeavor was unprecedented. Ships arriving at the busy harbor of Alexandria were searched for scrolls. Any manuscripts on board were copied, with the originals kept in the library and the copies returned to their owners. The ambition was clear: to collect the entire wisdom of the world. It was a project of both pride and obsession, a dream that placed Alexandria at the heart of intellectual achievement. Among the first scholars to frequent the library were mathematicians, astronomers, philosophers, and poets. Figures such as Euclid walked its corridors, teaching geometry and exploring principles that still form the foundation of mathematics today. Eratosthenes, the chief librarian, calculated the circumference of the Earth with remarkable precision, using shadows and basic geometry, demonstrating the power of observation and reasoning. Aristarchus of Samos proposed that the sun, not the Earth, was the center of the universe, centuries before Copernicus, challenging the prevailing geocentric views. The library was not just a storehouse of information, it was a laboratory for thought, a place where radical ideas could be tested, recorded, and shared. The architecture of the library itself reflected its purpose. It was said to contain lecture halls, reading rooms, gardens, and laboratories. Scholars lived and worked within its walls, conducting experiments in astronomy, medicine, and engineering. The library functioned as a combination of university, research institute, and museum. Its administrators developed systems to organize scrolls, categorizing texts by subject, author, and language. Papyrus scrolls were stored in jars, carefully labeled and indexed. The Ptolemies' obsession with completeness extended even to poetry and drama, as they sought to preserve every known work, from Homer to the contemporary playwrights of the Mediterranean. To walk through the library was to witness the scope of human achievement condensed into one place, a monumental testament to the belief that knowledge was eternal and cumulative. Yet as grand as the library was, it faced challenges that threatened its survival. The Ptolemy's successors often lacked the vision or discipline of their predecessors, and political instability in Alexandria introduced periods of neglect. The library's vast collections made it inherently vulnerable. Papyrus, the primary medium for recording knowledge, was highly flammable and susceptible to decay. Alexandria itself was a bustling port city, vulnerable to fires, riots, and foreign invasion. Over time, these factors combined with human error to make the library a fragile repository, dependent not only on human diligence, but on luck. Conflicting accounts cloud the precise history of the library's destruction. Some ancient writers attribute it to Julius Caesar's siege of Alexandria in 48 BCE. Caesar's fleet set fire to ships in the harbor to prevent them from falling into enemy hands. The fire reportedly spread to parts of the city, consuming warehouses and possibly portions of the library. Later, other accounts suggest additional losses occurred during subsequent invasions and civil unrest, particularly during the decline of Roman authority. Still others claim that religious upheavals in the early centuries of the Common Era, including attacks by Christian zealots and later by Muslim conquerors, contributed to the final eradication of its collections. The truth may never be known, but what is clear is that the library, in whole or in part, was lost, along with countless works that might have reshaped human understanding. The loss of the library is often framed in dramatic terms, yet it is difficult to comprehend fully what disappeared. Estimates of the number of scrolls vary widely, from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. These texts represented centuries of human thought. Medical treatises detailing surgical procedures or herbal remedies may have vanished. Philosophical arguments that could have influenced centuries of debate were lost. Scientific experiments, calculations, and observations that might have accelerated human knowledge for generations were erased. The disappearance of these works created a gap in human history, one filled with speculation and conjecture about what might have been. Despite the tragedy, the spirit of the library endured. Scholars in other regions preserved fragments of knowledge, transmitting ideas through translation, copying, and teaching. Alexandria's ambition inspired other centers of learning throughout the ancient world. In Pergamum, another major cultural and intellectual hub, rulers developed their own collections of texts. Libraries in Athens, Rome, and Antioch flourished, ensuring that some knowledge survived even as Alexandria's grand repository faded into memory. The library's influence persisted not through its physical scrolls, but through the intellectual traditions it nurtured, the methods of study it modeled, and the inspiration it provided to generations of scholars. The story of the library is intertwined with the evolution of writing, knowledge, and human curiosity. Papyrus was eventually replaced by parchment and paper, technologies that allowed for wider dissemination and preservation of information. Yet the principle behind Alexandria, the belief that human thought could be systematically collected and studied, remains foundational to modern libraries and universities. The library symbolizes both the fragility and resilience of knowledge, fragile in its dependence on preservation, resilient in the way ideas continue to survive and propagate even after catastrophic loss. As Alexandria declined politically, the library's fate became more precarious. The city's status as a thriving trade hub made it a prize for conquerors, and each new regime treated the institution differently. While some rulers maintained the library and its scholars, others neglected it, diverting resources to military campaigns, infrastructure, or personal luxury. Political upheaval, combined with the inherent vulnerability of papyrus scrolls to fire, decay, and mishandling, left the collection at constant risk. The very ambition that created the library, its accumulation of the entire world's knowledge, also made it a monumental liability. Every scroll, every manuscript was a potential point of failure. Julius Caesar's arrival in Alexandria during his civil war in 48 BCE represents one of the most widely cited events in the library's destruction. Caesar's intent was to secure the city and ensure control over the harbor. To prevent enemy forces from using the Egyptian fleet, he ordered the burning of ships docked in the harbor. Eyewitness accounts describe flames leaping from ship to city warehouses, engulfing structures along the waterfront. Whether this fire directly consumed a portion of the library or merely destroyed adjacent storage facilities remains debated. Nevertheless, the psychological impact of Caesar's campaign amplified the sense that Alexandria's intellectual treasures were imperiled. Beyond Caesar, successive Roman governors, civil unrest, and local conflicts contributed further to the library's decline. Records indicate that by the 1st century CE, parts of the collection had already been removed, relocated, or lost due to neglect. Some scholars speculate that scrolls were transported to other centers of learning, but the lack of comprehensive cataloging means these materials may have been scattered, fragmented, or irretrievably destroyed. As the centuries passed, the physical manifestation of the library faded, but its symbolic significance grew, becoming a representation of both human ambition and vulnerability. The types of knowledge housed within the library were vast and diverse. Medical texts explored anatomy, treatments, and surgical techniques. Astronomical observations detailed the movements of stars, planets, and celestial phenomena. Mathematical treatises examine geometry, arithmetic, and the properties of numbers in ways that influence generations of thinkers. Literature and poetry chronicled human experience, myth, and history. Philosophical works debated ethics, logic, and metaphysics. Engineering texts described the mechanics of water, siege engines, and early machinery. The sheer breadth of material underscores the comprehensive nature of Alexandria's endeavor. It was an attempt to collect all human understanding in one location. The library's scholars did more than simply preserve knowledge, they created new understanding. Eratosthenes' calculation of the Earth's circumference is the most famous example, but countless other innovations emerged from these halls. Observations in botany, zoology, and meteorology helped shape early scientific methodology. Philosophical debates refined principles of reasoning and ethics. Literature and drama were analyzed and categorized, influencing the development of narrative forms for centuries. Alexandria functioned as an incubator for ideas, an engine of intellectual progress whose influence radiated far beyond its walls. Yet despite these achievements, the library's fragility was never fully addressed. Papyrus scrolls are inherently combustible and susceptible to humidity. Fires could sweep through storage rooms in moments. Poorly trained staff might mishandle or misplace materials. Political leaders often lacked awareness or concern for preservation. Even during periods of relative stability, the library was always at risk. Its greatness was inseparable from its vulnerability, and this duality defines the story of Alexandria, a monument to human aspiration, constantly threatened by human error and circumstance. Accounts of the library's ultimate destruction are fragmented and contradictory. Some narratives claim that it survived Caesar, but was gradually lost during Roman civil unrest and administrative neglect. Others assert that Christian authorities destroyed the library in the 4th century CE during campaigns against pagan institutions, seeing the collection as heretical. Still, other sources suggest that Muslim conquerors of Alexandria in the 7th century CE may have played a role, though evidence for this claim is debated and likely exaggerated. What is consistent across accounts is that the library ceased to function as a centralized repository of knowledge, and the physical scrolls that once filled its halls vanished. The loss of the library created a vacuum in human understanding. Works by ancient philosophers, mathematicians, scientists, and poets disappeared. Histories of civilizations vanished. Mathematical proofs that could have accelerated the development of science were lost. Medical procedures known to ancient practitioners became obscure. Observations about the natural world, agricultural practices, and technology were erased. The cumulative effect was a retardation of intellectual progress, leaving future generations to rediscover or reinvent knowledge that had once been codified in Alexandria's scrolls. Despite the disappearance of its physical contents, the library's influence persisted. Fragments of knowledge were preserved elsewhere, in Pergamum, Athens, Rome, and other cities. Scholars who studied in Alexandria carried ideas back to their homelands. Manuscripts copied by scribes survived, though often in incomplete forms. The intellectual ethos of the library, its insistence on comprehensive collection, systematic study, and cross-cultural examination, endured as a model for future institutions. Libraries in the medieval Islamic world, Renaissance Europe, and modern times reflect Alexandria's ambition, structure, and vision. The library's symbolic power is as significant as its historical reality. It represents humanity's desire to understand, organize, and safeguard knowledge. It embodies the tension between ambition and fragility, creativity and vulnerability, curiosity and mortality. Historians and writers have used Alexandria as a cautionary tale. The loss of knowledge is both tragic and preventable, and the preservation of culture requires foresight, effort, and dedication. Its legend underscores the importance of intellectual stewardship, the risks of centralizing knowledge without protection, and the enduring consequences of neglect. Modern scholarship continues to probe what the library contained. Researchers analyze ancient references, fragmentary manuscripts, and secondary accounts to reconstruct the scope of its collection. The works of mathematicians such as Archimedes, astronomers like Aristotle, and poets including lost Greek and Egyptian authors tantalize historians with glimpses of what might have been. Some suggest that the library contained the only complete histories of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and early Greece. Others hypothesize that medical and technological texts predated and surpassed knowledge that would not reemerge until centuries later.
Every fragment of evidence fuels speculation, reinforcing the library's status as both a historical and intellectual mystery. The story of Alexandria is inseparable from the broader narrative of human civilization. It exemplifies the interplay between ambition, knowledge, and vulnerability. It reminds us that the accumulation of wisdom is never permanent, that preservation requires constant effort, and that even the most magnificent institutions are subject to the impermanence of human endeavor. Yet it also demonstrates the resilience of ideas. Although the physical scrolls were lost, the intellectual legacy of Alexandria survived in the thoughts, writings, and innovations of those who came after. The library remains an enduring symbol of human aspiration, a cautionary tale, and an inspiration for generations seeking to understand and preserve the world's collective knowledge. The Library of Alexandria, though physically destroyed, lives in imagination, scholarship, and memory. Its lessons are timeless. Knowledge is precious, fragile, and transformative. Its loss reminds humanity of the consequences of neglect and the importance of intellectual vigilance. Its ambition challenges us to seek understanding beyond borders and epochs, to collect, study, and preserve the ever-expanding tapestry of human thought. In contemplating what was lost, we also glimpse what is possible, a civilization capable of envisioning the totality of knowledge and daring to reach for it, however fleetingly. Alexandria's story does not end in ashes. In every modern library, every university, every archive, its spirit persists. The ambition to gather, protect, and share knowledge continues to drive humanity forward. The Library of Alexandria is, in essence, a mirror of human curiosity itself, vast, brilliant, and forever striving toward comprehension. Its physical destruction is a warning, but its intellectual and symbolic presence is eternal. Every scholar who turns a page, every student who studies, every thinker who dares to ask questions honors the legacy of Alexandria. Even in its absence, the library teaches us that knowledge is never truly lost when it is sought, shared, and remembered. Ideas survive in minds, in discourse, and in the ongoing effort to understand the universe. The Library of Alexandria, both real and imagined, stands as the ultimate testament to human ambition, curiosity, and the enduring power of learning.